Hello everybody and welcome to another video, and today I'm actually going to be doing my first ever Patreon requested video. Now I've been doing this channel for about 4 or 5 years now, and this is the first time anybody has actually asked through Patreon for a video. It's the first time a patron has asked for a video, and you know, this is great, it's wonderful. But it's the first time it's ever happened in like 4 or 5 years. So, But anyway, this comes from Bladed Thesis. He's asked me to look at the band I Prevail, a track called Breaking Down. Now, I think I've heard of the band I Prevail before. I've heard of bands with similar names. I know I've looked at a band called Slaughter to Prevail or something like that, but I've never actually checked out I Prevail. So why I mentioned that, I don't know. But anyway, so obviously I think, like I say, I think I've heard of the band, but I've not heard any of their music as far as I'm aware, so I had to do a little bit of research, as you know I like to do. And I Prevail is an American rock band formed in Southfield, Michigan in 2013. They released their debut EP, Heart vs. Mind, in 2014 and rose to popularity from releasing a metal cover of Taylor Swift's Blank Space as a single. Interesting choice. This eventually was certified platinum in the US. The band has since released 3 studio albums: Lifelines in 2016, Trauma in 2019, and True Power in 2020. The band found success with their original material as well as the singles Breaking Down, which is what I'm going to be looking at today, Hurricane, which performed well on rock radio. The single Bow Down was nominated for the Grammy Award for the Best Metal Performance in 2019, and Trauma, which I believe was their album, was nominated for the Grammy Award for Best Rock Album the same year. It says they were nominated, doesn't say they won, unfortunately. So yeah, like I said, we're going to be looking at the track Breaking Down. You be quiet. So I've no idea what this is going to sound like. It says they're a rock band, but they've been nominated for metal awards. So is it heavy rock? Is it more rock? Is it more metal? I don't know. I have lyrics here for the song. They come from directly underneath the video on YouTube, and of course, as normal, the video will be linked in the description down below. So yeah, don't know what to expect from this, so we'll just jump straight into it and see what we've got. So Breaking Down by I Prevail. Let's have a look.
I think too much. I'm a little bit paranoid. I think I'm breaking. Maybe it's in my blood. Got a pain that I can't avoid. I think I'm breaking down. Hey, every single second, minute, hour, every day. Person in the mirror, they won't let me feel a thing. Keep me focused on my problems, I'm addicted to the pain. Everybody's out to get you. I guess I never noticed how we kept creeping in. My enemy emotion, but I can't sink or swim. I say I'm feeling hopeless, they give me medicine. They give me medicine. They give me medicine. I think too much. I'm a little bit paranoid. I think I'm breaking. Maybe it's in my blood. Got a pain that I can't avoid. I think I'm breaking down. I think I'm breaking down. I think I'm breaking. I think too much. I'm a little bit paranoid. I think I'm breaking.
Um, well, there you go. Breaking Down by I Prevail. And that's a very powerful song. There's some very powerful imagery in the video and some very, very powerful and potent lyrics as well. Now, obviously, the song is about depression, mental health, that sort of thing. As it even said at the end, Brian, who I believe possibly the singer, I'm not entirely certain, said, I suffer with it every day. So he's singing about something from personal experience. And whether that was him in the video, I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, I mean, I've covered this subject many, many times across the videos I've done for this channel. I've covered many, many videos on mental health, and it's something I myself struggle with. I've mentioned many times I have borderline personality disorder, and I suffer with severe depression. And the way this song is worded, the way the lyrics have been put to this, a lot of it really resonates. And, throughout the song, he used multiple vocal styles, but there was those points where he's coming in with the harsh vocals, and that's sort of what it's like. You have those sort of tranquil moments where he was sort of singing with a sort of more clear, subdued tone, and then you had the harsher screen vocals coming in, and that's what it's like. You have moments of you have lucid moments, you have calm moments, and then you have those moments where it feels like your brain is just screaming at you, and you've got so much pent up frustrations and so much anger in a way. You just want to find a way to let it out. And this is one thing I liked when I was doing vocals for a metal band. Every week I'd go out to practice and I'd get to scream my lungs out, and that sort of really helped. Get to put all that frustration and anger into the performance of those vocals. It's really quite cathartic. Is that the word I'm looking for? There was that release that came with it. It was really quite wonderful. Unfortunately, I don't really have that option at the moment. I'd love to get back into doing that, but I've got so much going on, having to look after my mother and stuff. I don't really get a chance to go out and do things like that anymore. But anyway, let's have a look at the actual lyrics here. And, just the first 6 lines say so much. I mean, even just the first line. I think too much. I think I'm a little bit paranoid. I think I'm breaking. Maybe it's in my blood. Got a pain that I can't avoid. I think I'm breaking down. So just that very first line, I think too much. And this is something that's really prevalent in people with like depression and mental health disorders. You sit there and you overthink a lot. You almost make up scenarios in your head. You're like, if I go out and hang out with a group of friends, will I just annoy them? If I'm sitting there trying to have a conversation with people, am I annoying them by speaking to them? And this is one of the reasons why more often than not, if I go out and I'm in a group of people, I normally just sit quietly in the corner, because I don't want to irritate anybody. I don't want to annoy anybody, because I feel like maybe my presence is just irritating to them. And, even that second line there, I'm a little bit paranoid. That sort of falls in with that. He's overthinking things. It's like, am I annoying people? Am I irritating people? Am I a burden on people? Throughout the video, it showed him like laying in his bed, sort of like pulling the duvet over his head, and it showed his phone saying missed calls, text messages from friends saying, hey, are you okay, man? And he's just sort of ignoring it because he feels like he's a burden on these people. And this is what depression does to you. It plagues your mind. It makes you feel worthless. It makes you feel like you're a burden on people. It makes you feel like people don't really like you. They just sort of tolerate you. That sort of thing. It's, maybe it's in my blood, got a pain that I can't avoid. Maybe it's in my blood. Maybe it's just an inherent thing in me. Maybe it's just who I am, to be this kind of person. Got a pain that I can't avoid. As much as you really wish that it would just go away, it doesn't just go away. It sort of haunts you and comes back at you when you really don't want it to. You might be laying in bed all by yourself, minding your own business, just calm. And then all of a sudden your brain goes, do you know what? I'm going to fuck you up right about now. And your brain will just go off into this random dark pit of despair and start replaying things from your past that you don't really want to remember. It'll make you think about things that, you know, you don't want to think about. Like, if you've got to drive somewhere the next day, it'll make you go, hey, you might crash. You know, I mean, that's more anxiety than depression, but that's the sort of thing your brain does when you've got these problems. So, you know, and you can't avoid it. You can't just sit there and tell your brain to shut the fuck up, because that just doesn't work. So yeah, I mean, those first 6 lines, they said so much. Hate every single second, minute, hour, every day. Person in the mirror, they won't let me feel a thing. Keep me focused on my problems. I'm addicted to the pain. Everybody's out to get you. And that everybody's out to get you was sort of said by a secondary voice. Is sort of like your brain going, nobody likes you, everybody's out to get you, sort of thing. You know, hate every single second, minute, hour, every day. So, you know, he hates his day-to-day life because he's, sick to death of feeling miserable, unwanted, hated. He hates feeling the way he feels, you know. So he doesn't want to get out of bed. He doesn't want to have to face a day feeling like that every single day. Person in the mirror won't let me feel a thing. So, you know, he's looking at himself in the mirror, and what he hates what he sees. He hates the person he sees, because the person he sees, the person he's looking at, is the person causing him so much pain, and of course it's him. You know, keep me focused on my problems. I'm addicted to the pain. I'm not sure about that particular line, I'm addicted to the pain, but there are certain times when you're in like a depression or in a bad mood. Some people sort of seem to actively go out to try and make it feel worse. Like, you might be sitting there miserable and depressed, and they'll sit there and they'll put on like really sad, depressing, miserable songs, or they'll watch something, you know, they'll watch a really sad, depressing movie. You know, I don't know if they actively do it on purpose, but it's sort of like their mood sort of, you know, the way their brain's behaving, it sort of encourages their behavior, you know, throughout the day. So, you know, if they're feeling miserable, they're going to do things to make themselves miserable, you know. And I'm pretty sure people don't do it on purpose. They don't actively seek to do it, but there are people that do that, you know, people that actually sit there and go, right, I'm miserable, I'm depressed, I'm going to put on some miserable, depressing music, or I'm going to watch something miserable and depressing, you know. And all it does is sort of compound that, you know, that feeling. You know, you're sort of making it worse on yourself. I guess I never noticed how it came creeping in. My enemy emotion, but I can't sink or swim. I say I'm feeling hopeless. They give me medicine. They give me medicine. They give me medicine. So I guess I never noticed how it came creeping in. It's very few people, I think, can actually specify where their depression and things like that come from. You know, obviously there are people out there, you know, certain life events do trigger, you know, those depressive feelings. You know, they might have, for example, they might have had really bad, violent, abusive relationships. They might have been made homeless. You know, I'm speaking from personal experience here. You know, these are things that I've been through, and I know that they've added to my depression. I mean, I was actually diagnosed with severe depression before any of those things happened to me, but those sort of things just sort of compound it. But very few people, I don't think very many people can pinpoint the exact point where depression sort of caught up to them. You know, he said, I never noticed how it came creeping in. So it's like, it's just one of those things that just sort of happens to you. You know, it's not something that you go, hold on, my depression started on this day of this year because of this thing. You know, I say I'm feeling hopeless. They give me medicine. So it's like this. This is sort of thing that happened to me. It's like, you go to the doctors, your GP, whoever, and you say, look, I'm struggling, I'm feeling depressed, I'm miserable, and they go, right, take these tablets, and that's it. You know, I've spent years trying to get therapy. You know, I want to see a therapist. I want to be able to see someone who might actually be able to help me with this problem instead of just throwing tablets at me. You know, someone who can talk me through it, maybe find the root of what's happening, you know, maybe try and find a way to help me see the better things in life, you know. But these days, a lot of these mental health problems, or maybe not these days, you know, mental health things are getting better and better now, you know, because you've got all these things like BetterHelp and whatnot. But, you know, you go to a doctor, say you're feeling depressed, say you're feeling miserable, they throw tablets at you and you're out of the room. And that's it. You know, there's no follow-up to it. They're just like, right, take these tablets, that'll do. Then it goes into the chorus, which is basically an extension of those opening first lines. It says, I think too much. I'm a little bit paranoid. I think I'm breaking. Maybe it's in my blood. Got a pain I can't avoid. I think I'm breaking down. I think I'm breaking down. I think I'm breaking. I think too much. I'm a little bit paranoid. I think I'm breaking down. Lies. Every time they ask me, I tell them that I'm fine. I try to hide my demons, but they only multiply. Keep me running from their voices on repeat inside my mind. Everybody fucking hates you. And again, this is similar to what I was saying before, you know, that voice, everybody fucking hates you. You know, you sit there, you know, thinking too much, you know, and you get this idea that everybody hates you, you know, everybody just tolerates you, you know, they don't really want you to be there. You know, there have been times in my life where I've, you know, all my friends have been out at some point and, you know, they've mentioned to me, oh, why weren't you at XYZ's parties? Because I was never invited. And you can't help but sit there and think, why wasn't I invited? You know, was it because they don't actually like me? You know, if like we meet up down at the pub or something like that and I'm there, do they just put up with me because I'm there? But, you know, they haven't invited me to this party because they don't actually like me. You know, that little nagging voice in the back of your mind going, everybody fucking hates you. You know. It says, lies. Every time they ask me, I tell them that I'm fine. And this is something that people with depression do a lot. I mean, I do it all the time. You know, you're sitting there, you're feeling miserable, you're feeling down in the dumps, and people come up to you and they go, are you all right? And you go, yeah, I'm fine. But you're really not, because inside you're falling apart. But again, this comes with the thinking you're a burden. You know, you don't want to burden, or I know in my personal experience, I don't want to burden people with my problems. You know, people are like, oh, you can talk to me. You know, anything that's wrong with you, you can talk to me. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that's fine. I understand. That's great. I really appreciate it. But I never do. But the thing is, conversely, if I know a friend of mine is feeling miserable and depressed, I will go to them and say, look, you can talk to me. You know, just talk to me. Scream at me, shout at me, whatever you need to make yourself feel better, just talk to me. And I won't let up until they talk to me. But when it comes to the other way around, I won't talk to other people because I don't want to burden them with my problems. You know, it's a vicious circle because they're unloading all their problems on me, which probably isn't helping me realistically. But I mean, I've mentioned in the past, you know, I lost my best friend to depression. You know, he jumped in front of a train, and I've never forgiven myself for that because I saw him the morning of the day he did it. But because I was late for work, I was in too much of a rush, so I didn't stop and talk to him to see if he was okay, because I could tell that he wasn't in the best of moods when I saw him. You know, I asked him if he was okay. He was like, yeah, I'm fine. And I went, right, I've got to go to work. But I knew he wasn't. But if I'd taken the time to stop and talk to him, maybe things might have been different. You know, it's something I've never forgiven myself for. So I make sure that if someone is feeling down, I make sure that I make them talk to me. You know, even if them putting their problems on me makes me feel a little bit worse, if I can do anything to alleviate it from them, all the better, because I don't want to have to sit there one day. I mean, it's kind of selfish in a way, because I don't want to have to sit there one day and get the news that another friend of mine has taken their own life because nobody spoke to them. You know, I've lost too many friends that way, and it's a very difficult thing to deal with. You know, I've lost like 2 or 3 friends to that sort of thing, and I mean, it is a bit of a two-way street, because it's like, as was demonstrated in this music video, you know, people were asking him, are you okay? People were reaching out to him. You know, there was his girlfriend banging on the door, you know, wanting to talk to him, wanting him to talk to her. You know, people were actively trying to help him, but he was just sort of closing himself off and hiding himself away. And, you know, I mean, this is something that people with depression do a lot. And it's not useful. You know, I'm guilty of doing this myself. You know, people turn around to me and go, are you okay? And I say, yeah, I'm fine. But then I'll go and hide in my room in the dark, crying to myself under the duvet so no one can hear me. You know, there's a bit of there's a two-way street that needs to go there. Like, if you're struggling and suffering with depression, you need to reach out to people. You know, people aren't psychic. You know, there are people that are incredibly empathetic, and, you know, they can tell just by being around you if you're depressed. You know, and I'm actually quite good at that. You know, I'm very good at telling when people are miserable and depressed. But it's like, you've got to reach out to them. But conversely, if your friend or you know someone is depressed, you've got to reach out to them. You know, and it's vitally important, because if you know someone is miserable and depressed, and then you find out days or weeks down the road that they've done something to themselves, it's a very hard thing to deal with. It's something that's very hard to get over, because you spend the rest of your life thinking, what if? You know, what if I'd taken a few minutes to talk to them? What if, rather than just taking their word, you know, when I asked them, are they okay? And they said, I'm fine. Rather than just taking that at face value, should I have pressed it a bit more and, you know, gone, are you sure? You know, you can talk to me, that sort of thing. You know, obviously you don't want to push too hard, because then that person will completely shut down. You know, they will clam up and they will hide themselves away. But, you know, there's got to be this give and take when it comes to mental health, depression, anxiety and whatnot. You know, if you're depressed, you need to reach out to people. If you know someone who is depressed, you need to reach out to them. I mean, it's not easy to listen to someone who is struggling with depression and mental health. You know, you're listening to someone that you love and care about talk about how they feel terrible. You know, they might even mention that they might have had suicidal ideation. You know, they might be talking to you about, you know, attempts that they've done. And it's not an easy thing to listen to, but it is so important that you do. Because what they need is, they just need someone to talk to listen to them, to understand them. You know, and it might be difficult to understand them. You know, speaking to people with borderline personality disorder, it's very hard to understand where they're coming from. You know, because it's not something you yourself have experienced. You know, so it might not make any sense to you, but to them it does. And it's really important that you know, that you try and understand them and talk to them, and, you know, try and alleviate some of that weight that they're holding on their shoulders. You know, and I mean, in the end of this video, you know, it showed the protagonist of our video, this young man who was sort of hiding himself away. You know, towards the end of the video, it shows him with a bottle of pills, his girlfriend sitting at the table with him, and he's like looking at this tablet, sort of like, oh, do I really want to be doing this? Because, I mean, I hate taking tablets. I absolutely hate it. But I know that if I didn't, I'd be so much worse. And, you know, you see him taking this tablet, and, you know, then towards the end of the video, you see him with a bit more sort of pep. You know, he's sort of brightened up a little bit. He's sort of engaging with his girlfriend and I'm assuming it was his father as well. You know, when he's out with his friends, you know, he's having a laugh with them rather than sitting in the corner moping and being miserable. You know, so he sought that help to try and, you know, better the situation he was in. And it's important that you do that. You know, it's nothing to be embarrassed about to admit that you have depression or mental health issues. In fact, it's vitally important that you do face up to it. Because if you don't, it can take you down a very dark path, and if you wander too far down that path, there's no returning. So it's very important, and like I said, this is something I myself have been through. I still go through it. I really struggle. I live in a small village in the back end of nowhere, and the closest friends I have live about 40 odd miles away. So, I don't get to hang out with friends on a regular basis. In fact, the last time I hung out with a friend was when I was at Bloodstock, and that was like over a month ago now. So, I very rarely get to go out and hang out with friends. I don't get to speak to people very often. Nobody phones me, nobody voice messages me, nobody video calls me. It's quite miserable. In fact, the only social interaction I have at the moment is the person I'm seeing for help with my alcohol addiction, which is something that I'm trying to do to better myself, to try and, because alcohol, really adds to depression, and the ironic thing is, I was drinking a lot because of my depression and because of my insomnia, and the thing is, alcohol really sort of compounds that. So, yeah, that sort of thing. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, lies every time they ask me. I say I'm fine. Try to hide my demons, but they only multiply. So again, this is another habit of those people with depression. They put on the fake smile, and when people ask how they fine, they're like, yeah, I'm fine, and in public they try and look happy and, jovial and whatnot, but really inside they're falling apart. Keep me running from the voices that repeat inside my mind, everybody fucking hates you. Then it goes back into that. I guess I never noticed how it came creeping in. My enemy emotion, but I can't sink or swim. I say I'm feeling hopeless, but no one's listening. But no one's listening. But no one's listening. Excuse me. It says that my enemy emotion. It's an emotion that you don't want. It's an emotion that you hate, but it's always there. It's sort of lingering at the back of your mind, or it's sort of taunting you from afar, sort of thing. It's always there. You absolutely hate it. And it says here, I say I'm feeling hopeless, but no one's listening. And this is what I was saying before, if you know someone that is struggling with mental health issues, depression, what have you, it's important that you reach out. It's important that you listen. Because, I've had people before that have said to me, how are you feeling? And, I've said to them, I'm feeling a bit down, I'm feeling a bit miserable. And they're like, oh, I don't want to listen to this. I don't want to talk about that. There's these people that will sit there, they'll do the pleasantry. How are you? But all they want to hear is, I'm fine, or I'm great. They don't want to actually hear your problems, And again, when you're in a sort of depressive state, you actually feel like no one cares and nobody wants to know. But the truth of the matter is, there are people that will listen to you. There are people that do want to know. There are people that want to help you. But when you're in that depressive state of mind, you feel like nobody cares. And that's what he's saying there, I say I'm feeling hopeless, but no one's listening. But I mean, in reality, people are listening. You just feel like nobody cares. You feel like nobody's listening. And occasionally there are people that you encounter that just aren't listening, because all they want to hear is, I'm fine, because they don't want to deal with your bullshit. And then it goes back into that chorus. I think too much. I'm a little bit paranoid. I think I'm breaking. Maybe it's in my blood. Got a pain I can't avoid. I think I'm breaking. Down, I think I'm breaking. Down, I think I'm breaking. I think too much. I'm a little bit paranoid. I think I'm breaking down. And then right at the end it says, I don't really like myself. 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 I think I'm breaking down. And again, this is a feeling that I can, I don't really like myself. I personally, I don't like myself. I've never liked myself. I've got, my self-esteem and my opinion of myself is so far down, it's playing a didgeridoo and drinking Fosters. I've never particularly liked myself at all. But this is a sort of mindset that I need to try and change, because, why do I not like myself? What is there I don't like about myself? But again, this is what depression does to you. It makes you overthink. It makes you think that you're a worthless person. It makes you think that you are a horrible, bad person. But you're not. It's just your brain fucking you up. And this is this is the sort of thing you need to change. So yeah, like I said, it's a very powerful song with some very powerful and deep lyrics, and lyrics that you know, I can really associate with. Um, and like I said, if you're struggling with depression, it is really, really so important that you reach out to someone. And if that someone doesn't want to listen to you, fuck them. Move on. Speak to someone else. Find someone that will listen. It is really important that you speak to someone. Don't keep it all bunched up inside of you, because that will just make it worse. And the worse it gets, the harder it is to get out of it. And conversely, if you know someone is going through a hard time, if you know someone is struggling with depression, for the love of God, reach out to them. Let them know that they have someone that they can talk to. Let them know that there is someone there willing to listen to them. Because I've got numerous people on my Facebook, numerous friends I've on my Facebook who I've seen in random threads, and they've been saying they're having a bad time, and I've just said to them, if you need someone to talk to, I will listen. Whether you need to scream, shout, rant, rave, whatever, I will sit there, I will listen, I will not judge. And I've got friends on Facebook that I've made just from saying that to somebody I don't even know. And then, they've come across Facebook, sent me a message saying, dude, thank you so much, and got into a conversation with them. Because seeing someone struggling, seeing someone suffering isn't nice. I don't want to see someone struggle and suffer the way that I have, the way that I do. Because I know how shitty it feels. And I don't want to see other people, even if I don't know them, I don't want to see other people going through that shit, because I know how much it sucks. I mean, when I worked in Blockbuster, one evening, this young lass came in. I can't remember her name. She came in a few times as a customer, and we've spoken on occasion. But she came in one day and she looked absolutely, positively miserable. It looked like she'd been crying. And, I was like, are you all right? And she's like, no. She sounded so miserable and dejected, And I didn't really know this person at all, We'd swapped pleasantries, we spoke about whatever film it was that they were renting at the time. But, we'd never actually had a deep, meaningful discussion outside of... But, she came in, she looked miserable, she sounded miserable. And I was like, are you all right? And she was like, no. I was like, well, what's wrong? And she was like, it doesn't matter. I was like, no. Listen, it's quiet. There's nobody else in the shop. I'm standing around doing absolutely fuck all. Talk to me. And, she burst out crying. So I gave her a hug. And then, we sat there talking for about an hour and a half. Like I said, this was a while back, and like I said, she was a nice enough person. Complete stranger, well, not a complete stranger to me, but someone I didn't really know. But for that hour and a half, she had someone that would listen to her, listen to all her problems. She could tell me about whatever it was. I can't even remember what it was that we spoke about. It was quite a long time ago. But she stood there, she cried on my shoulder. And then she opened up to me, told me what was wrong with her. And, we sat there talking for about an hour and a half. And, at that point, I was like, right, I've done something nice for someone. That person was feeling miserable, and they've sat there and they've opened up to me, spilled their guts, told me all that was wrong with them. And hopefully, maybe that's made them feel a bit better. And this was, like I say, this was pretty much a stranger to me, So it is important, if you know that someone is struggling, that you speak to them. Because, like I said, if people keep that sort of thing bottled up inside of them, it can lead them down a path that is so dark that eventually they might not be able to come back from it. And that's not something you want to have to think about. And, you know, it's something that I think about, because like I say, you know, I lost my best friend that way. There was a friend of mine who actually helped me when I was homeless. And she took her own life as well. In fact, I spoke about it on this channel when it happened a few years ago. And, you know, that sitting there thinking, you know, was there something I could have done? Because I was actually supposed to meet up with that friend, like the following week for coffee, because I knew she was feeling miserable. And I was like, you know, do you want to meet up for coffee? And she was like, yeah, okay, we'll meet up next week. But then out of the blue, it happened. So, you know, whilst I can sit there and say, you know, I think I did all I could, did I? And the thing is, you don't want that playing on your mind. It's not a fun thing to have to deal with. But anyway, this got really quite deep and depressing, didn't it? So yeah, we'll move on from that. I mean, it was a good piece of music. It was very unusual, you know, because it started off a little bit sort of rappy, hip hoppy, which I wasn't expecting at all, because, you know, that didn't get mentioned even slightly in the description of the band. But, you know, it had its heavy moments. It was pretty decent. It was a pretty good piece of music. A very, very nu metal-y sort of thing, but yeah, not bad. But yes, thanks once again to Bladed Thesis for this suggestion through Patreon. And yeah, I'm going to leave that as it is. Now, if you enjoyed this video, maybe give it a like, possibly even subscribe if you're not already, because it really would help the channel out. You know, I sit there and put all this time and effort into making these videos, and, you know, I put them on YouTube and they just disappear, you know, because at the moment I think only about 9.5% of people watching my videos are actually subscribed. So, you know, and even then, subscribers that are watching it aren't liking the videos, and they're just sort of disappearing off into the ethers. And then I'm getting messages 3 months later saying, oh, I found this video of this band that I actually looked at 3 months ago. And it's like, well, yeah, I put that out 3 months ago, and, you know, it just sort of disappeared. because, you know, because YouTube algorithm and all that bollocks. So, you know, if you could give it a like and a subscribe, it doesn't cost you anything. It takes a fraction of a second, and it really, really would help me out. But yeah, that's all I've got for you today. Thank you all very, very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.